The year is 1107. The place, the Kingdom of Norway. A youth named Sigurd has just been elected king. His men have heard news that Jerusalem, far away in the Holy Land, has been conquered by Christian crusaders. They are eager to make the journey to the Holy City. King Sigurd, whose ancestors were Vikings, agrees to lead them in this perilous adventure. This is the beginning of the Norwegian Crusade. Sigurd will be the first European king to set out as a crusader to the Holy Land. Sigurd's father had been King Magnus III. On his death, Magnus had given the throne to not one, but all three of his sons, Sigurd, Olaf, and Eystein. Throughout history, royal sons have battled one another for control of their father's kingdom. But in this case, the three sons governed harmoniously. Under their brotherly rule, the Kingdom of Norway prospered. By now, it was nearly a decade since the First Crusade had established the Kingdom of Jerusalem. The three brother kings of Norway, like many rulers throughout Christendom, were excited by the idea of this victory. They agreed that their kingdom should do something to aid the Holy Land. Among the Norwegians, young Sigurd was considered to be the ideal candidate to lead a long expedition. Thus, Sigurd gathered together a force of some 5,000 men and departed Norway in a fleet of 60 dragon-headed longboats. Meanwhile, his brothers and the others left behind prayed for their success. King Sigurd and his warriors were the descendants of Vikings. To strike out adventuring across the seas, this was in their blood. The journey resembled an old-time Viking raid, with one crucial difference. Rather than seeking to plunder Christian churches, Sigurd and his men were on their way to worship at the holiest Christian shrine of all, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, in Jerusalem. Sigurd's journey spanned many lands. In 1107, they wintered with King Henry I of England. By 1108, they sailed along the coast of Portugal, where they defeated Moorish pirates. They continued on to the Balearic Islands, scoring more victories over the Moors and gaining enormous loot. By 1109, Count Roger II of Sicily welcomed them to his domain and gave them lavish accommodations. Finally, in the spring of 1110, Sigurd and his men departed Sicily for the Crusader states. At the port city of Jaffa, they were greeted by King Baldwin I of Jerusalem. Baldwin received Sigurd like a brother, escorting him to the holy city of Jerusalem. The two rulers prayed side by side there before the tomb of Christ. The Patriarch of Jerusalem gifted Sigurd with many holy relics, including a splinter of the true cross. Baldwin himself acted as Sigurd's guide, escorting him to the various holy sites, explaining their significance and history. This culminated at the River Jordan, where Sigurd and Baldwin again prayed together in a most solemn ceremony. Finally, King Baldwin hosted a feast in honor of the Norwegians. Amid the celebration, Baldwin talked with Sigurd about the possibility of a joint military operation. Sigurd replied that he had come to Jerusalem for no other purpose. Baldwin had only to name the city he wished help in reducing, and Sigurd would join him. Over the past decade, King Baldwin had captured many of Palestine's port cities. Sidon, however, still evaded him. Located south of Beirut and north of Tyre, Sidon was one of the chief ports of the region. Presently, Sidon was ruled by the Fatimid Caliphate of Egypt and had been used by the Fatimids to launch raids against the Christian ports. With his army, Baldwin besieged Sidon's land defenses, while Sigurd's longships blockaded Sidon from the sea. From Tyre, the Fatimids launched a force of ships to relieve Sidon, but they were defeated by Sigurd's fleet. Baldwin attacked the city with catapults and a siege tower draped with vine branches, mats, and damp ox hides for protection against Greek fire. The Saracens hatched a plan to sneak out and burn Baldwin's engines, but the king's spies forewarned him, and he foiled the plot. Eventually, Sidon's Fatimid garrison asked for terms. Baldwin was generous, allowing the citizens to depart unmolested or to remain in the city as his protected subjects. The garrison evacuated safely, while the bulk of the citizenry chose to remain. Sidon now belonged to King Baldwin. Sigurd's crusade was a success. Sigurd and his men said goodbye to Baldwin and the Franks of Jerusalem, then set out by sea on their long return journey. They stopped in Constantinople, where Sigurd left his ships, as well as many of his men who went into service for the Byzantine emperor. Sigurd himself continued with his entourage via the land route, arriving back in Norway at last in 1111. There, at the shrine of St. Olaf, Sigurd deposited the priceless relic of the True Cross, a powerful commemoration of his crusade. Today, if you visit the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem, you'll see on one of the columns a 12th century image of St. Olaf, the patron of Norway. It's the oldest existing image of St. Olaf. The Norwegian Crusade is a remarkable journey, an exciting chapter in the history of the Crusades, and arguably a poetic closure to the Viking Age. Sigurd and his men showed all the old courage of their Viking forefathers, combined with the faith of the Crusader. Here in the first decade of the 12th century, we see two great phases of the Middle Ages intersecting. Sigurd would be known to history as Sigurd the Crusader, distinguished as Europe's first king to crusade in the Holy Land. His story would be recorded in a saga, much like those of the Viking explorers who came before him.